Okay, so in this video, I'm going to tell you guys what I experienced and learned from becoming an extrovert for a year. And this was at my first year of college. I decided to really open up and I wanted to meet as many people as I possibly could. And I'm going to let you know what emotions I felt during it, what experiences I went through, and what I didn't like about it, and what actually benefited me from it. And all this started because in high school, I was really, really introverted, and it limited the amount of connections I was able to make with people. And that basically flipped a switch in me where I really wanted to change in college and really be able to learn to interact with people, learn to meet new people, and enter a space where I could actually make connections as a human. And so when I first got into college, I actually really liked being extroverted. And even though my college is pretty antisocial overall because I go to a commuter school, so people just live at home and then go to school, being extroverted really helped me to find friends and communities I actually enjoyed being around. Because in high school, I had my group of friends. When I was actually in school, I couldn't just, hang out with my friends all the time because we have different classes, different schedules. So I would hang around groups of people who I didn't really find to be the best for me or the best kind of people that I really wanted to hang out with. And so I would just hang around these people just because I knew them, but it didn't really go any deeper than that, and I didn't really think it could because I was just kind of in the background for conversations. When you're an introvert, you're kind of just watching stuff happen from the outside. You're kind of like a spectator, even if you're there in the moment with them too. And so I was able to meet more people than I ever had in my entire high school, in my first year of college. And I had more self-confidence in myself. I felt more respected in group situations. I got a girlfriend for the first time. I would describe being extroverted as allowing the highs and lows to come into your life. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned that, where you really can't have highs without lows, and you can't have lows without highs. And so a lot of introverted people don't want to have lows in their life, or they just basically they don't want to experience the drama that comes with being extroverted. Because when I kind of broke out of my shell and I was talking to a lot more people and I was really interacting with people, I noticed that I would be really sucked into a lot of drama. So I would be always in these, conversations that were revolved around somebody else that we were kind of talking about. It was kind of interesting to be in that because I've never really been in that sort of atmosphere before. But you miss out on the highs. So even though you can have this drama and all this other stuff that can drain you socially, you're missing out on the highs, which is getting human connection. Because if you want to be successful in life, you need to have connections through other people. It is not that hard to do a high-paying job. If you want to get a high-paying job that is a desk job, it is not that hard to do the job. It is extremely hard to actually get that job. If you can find the right connections and be in the right place at the right time and actually present yourself in a good way. I'm not saying oh, go be extroverted just so you can eventually use people for their own connections to gain for yourself. I'm saying you should make those connections with people, and then that kind of comes along with it in the future. So for me, throughout college, I made connections, and that was how I learned about this fraternity that I was able to join. And because of that, that fraternity is going to get me a lot of leadership positions and just stuff on my resume that can really, boost my value and my presentation to eventual companies that I'm going to work for in the future. And so being extroverted allowed me to really be more ingrained into all that, because that's really what you need to do when you're focusing on your adulthood. Is you need to have these connections through people that you can utilize in your life. And the only way to do that is if you're actually able to approach people. Because when you're young and you're in school, for me, how I made my friends was a lot of my own friends approached me and just kind of entered my life. When you grow up, that doesn't happen. You're not just going to get random people that will like approach your life if you're not really perceived as interesting to them. And when you're introverted, you're not really showing your interesting side. You're not really showing your personality. You're not really showing what makes you unique. And so you're not really making as many connections as you could have. And so when you're extroverted, you're able to make more of those connections, and you're really able to, put yourself out there, market yourself to people. That's kind of a weird way of saying it, but you really just want to market yourself to people to prove to people that like, hey, I am I'm a likable person. I'm a person that, you would want to talk to, something like that. Whereas you can't really market yourself to people if you're not even like giving yourself to other people to, be able to learn about you, to be able to like learn more about you, to really have these interactions where you can start to bond. And so that's one thing I really enjoyed being extroverted, is I was really able to utilize a bunch of those opportunities and I'm going to continue to keep doing that going forward. I actually have my own startup clothing brand that I am currently trying to get off the ground. I have the website built and everything else, and we have ordered products. We just have to actually market the stuff and actually sell it. And so the analogy I'm trying to make here is like, you can have your own brand and like this really cool idea. Like, I think my clothing brand will be a really cool idea, and I think it will be able to grow over time. But if you're not actually marketing it to people, you're not going to get anybody to see it. Similar to real life, where if you feel like you can contribute a lot to like a value to people's lives, and you really think that you can make a difference with people because of the way that you think your personality is, you have to have self-confidence. You need to start marketing yourself to people, because people are not going to care enough and not going to be curious enough to know about you if you're not going to market yourself. And so moving on, being an extrovert allowed me to see the flaws of people who think they are introverted. So I'm an introverted person, but like I would classify there's two different introverts. There's the introvert that can talk to people when people approach them, and the introvert that can't. So it's okay to be introvert. I'm not like trying to say like don't be an introvert, because like I am an introvert myself, but you can't have no social skills. So if someone approaches you and talks to you, you need to be able to respond back and hold a conversation. And that is something that I notice a lot with introverts. It's like, if you want to go approach and talk to them, I was doing that when I was extroverted for my my college, my first year at college. I was doing that, and a lot of people would just have these one-word answers or just kind of like shrug their shoulders or something like that. And basically that makes me like that's my impression of them. My impression is like, oh, they're just boring people. And so if you really want to stick out and you really want to be able to, have these connections with people, you really need to be able to get people hooked onto you, And so a lot of people need to learn to be able to talk to people, and the only way you can do that, the only way to progress from being an introvert that doesn't know how to talk to people to an introvert that knows how to talk to people and knows how to hold conversations, even though they know that you're an introvert. And just because you claim that you're an introvert shouldn't hold you back from being extroverted. I don't like people who say that, where they were like, oh, I can't, push beyond my comfort zone because I was born an introvert. So was I. I was very quiet in my elementary school, middle school, most of my high school. I was extremely quiet. Well, in college, I was the complete opposite. A lot of people would describe me as, very energetic and like very, able to, form like relationships with them. I was, in my fraternity, I was able to, market myself a lot toward people. And then I was nominated as like the favorite pledge or something like that of the semester. And because I was able to market myself, really be able to share these moments with people and have conversations, even though I am more introverted, you need to be able to have that sort of skill. You need to be able to still talk to people, be able to still be extroverted at times, even if you're introverted and don't want to talk to people, because talking to people is how you're going to actually get out there. If you go through college, if you go through life without talking to people and you're on your own, you're not going to be able to make these connections, and connections are the most important thing to being able to grow. You can, try to become, you can try to do everything by yourself, but why would you want to do that if it's so much easier and so much more convenient to be able to have people around you that care about you, that actually want you to succeed with them, that are going to give you advice long term? If you're just introverted and you're by yourself, you're most likely going to live a very, very average to subpar life. And your happiness is going to be weighed upon how many people in your life there are. Because whether you like it or not, whether you're introverted or extroverted, we all care about what people think about us, and we all care about our own lives and how many people are in our life, like our stable connections, our inner circle of people. And so you need to be able to make these sort of connections, is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of introverts don't know how to do that. So I'm saying if you're introverted, you need to be able to make connections. I guarantee it is the best thing for you. I have connections with millionaires right now. Just because I've been able to connect through other people at my school who have been able to connect me to people from my clothing brand that can give me advice. I have connections to so many different people right now that I've been able to form close relationships to because I put myself out there for just 1 year of my life, more just like a semester, but like 1 year of my life I was able to dedicate to making connections. And now I feel very, very happy and satisfied with who I have around me as resources and who I have around me as friends. And so that's one thing that I would take away from this. And it's, as long as you know how to actually interact with people, you're going to be fine as an introvert. You just really need to put yourself out there regardless. And I also thought a lot more about people when I was introverted than I did, or when I was extroverted than I did when I was introverted. When you're introverted, you're kind of, focusing on yourself. Well, not necessarily focusing on yourself. You can do that either way. But when you're introverted, you're most likely just kind of in your own mind. You're in your own world. You tend to care less about the situations around you just because you're not really in them. You're more just observing from the outside, as I mentioned earlier. And so when you're an extrovert and you're actually in these situations, you're going to care a lot more about these situations. And that can be either a good or a bad thing. I found myself getting stressed out about all these social situations, which was a bad thing, but the fact that I was in them and able to progress them is a good thing long term. So if you're very stressed about like certain social situations, putting yourself out there, do it anyway, because you're still going to be able to make these connections. And even though there might be stress along the way and things you might get tied into, drama related, that's not going to matter long term, because even if you don't find the right group of people when you're extroverted and you don't find the right people that you can really, build yourself with and really hang out with and really grow with, you're going to be able to tell much faster if those people are for you or not for you, based on if you're able to learn more about them. If you're introverted, you're not going to learn as much about them because you're not going to be talking to you as much. If you are in groups or social groups and you're usually in the backgrounds and you're not really the main focus of the group, or you're not really in the main conversation, or you're not really, people aren't really acknowledging you that much, you have to start being acknowledged, and you have to start putting yourself in these such situations, because then you're able to realize if people are worth it and are able to be in your life. You need to bring people into your life who you think are worth it. People in my fraternity, I think are worth it. That's why I decided to join the fraternity. I have friends I made my first semester of college. I have people I've met all throughout my college. I know a lot of people. And I've basically selectively chosen which people I know are good for me long term and which people I don't. And so I don't talk as much to the people who I don't think are good for me long term. Am I glad that I met them? Yes, because it allowed me to learn how to market myself to people. And then when you're marketing yourself to people, people also market themselves to you. You don't actually realize that. Whenever you approach people when you're an introvert and you try to be more extroverted to them, they're unintentionally also marketing themselves to you. And so you got to process that. You're like, okay, I'm getting to, market myself to them. How are they going to receive that? And how are they going to market themselves to me? So if I'm talking to somebody and they aren't really, somebody that I really want to work with or hang out with long term, it's like then just move on and pick, and just, you'll find other people. There's so many people in this world that are for you. If you feel like you're alone and there's nobody who can, nobody who like relates to you, I guarantee you there's someone who does. I spend most of my time alone, but when I'm with social groups during the school year and actually interacting with people, I realize that there's a lot of people who deep down are a lot like me, because in reality, none of us are special at all. None of us are special. And so even if you feel different than somebody else, you're not. The same feelings and emotions you have, everybody else feels. It's just a lot of people don't ever talk about it or express it because of the way social norms are. So just find those people, and the more extroverted you are, the more you're able to interact with them and learn more about them and actually know that people are actually experiencing the same things as you and are feeling the same things as you, and you're able to progress that relationship and progress those connections so you can eventually have a long-term bond with somebody, but eventually also like be able to grow with people. Having people to grow with in life is some of the most important things that you can do. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. And if you made it this far, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.